Meeting of October 20, 2020 to order. And my handy dandy flag. Kathy, I think you're up for leading. You're muted, Kathy. There we
It was
go.
much better. It was much better muted.
I disagree.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
States of
America,
America and
and to the republic for
which it stands,
one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll take a motion to open the meeting.
That motion.
so moved.
All right, moved and seconded. Welcome, everyone. First part of the agenda is public comment. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bring up tonight that is not already going to be covered on the agenda? Jay?
Yes, where's Ricky?
Will there be an opportunity to, I wanted to make a comment about the flag policy process. Will there be an opportunity to do that when you get to that agenda item?
There will, when we get to the discussion section.
Perfect, then I'll wait on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to bring up?
Where's
All right.
Ricky?
I just sent him a text. I said, are you coming tonight?
Yeah.
He just logged on.
Okay. There he is. We missed you, Rick. All right, old business, approval of the October 6, 2020 Select Board meeting minutes. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the meeting minutes are open for discussion. All right, seeing none. Dan, how do you vote?
I'll abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses, 1 abstention. All right, next up, we have a board appointment under new business for the Communications Committee. Where's Patty at? There's Patty. Patty, how do I say your last name?
It's Von Eiderstein. It's actually a capital I in the middle, but the font makes it look like a lowercase L.
Well, and that's what I was struggling. I'm like, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to ask her.
Yes, Von Eiderstein.
All right. Well, Patty Von Eiderstein, welcome.
Thank you.
I will take a motion on Patty's appointment.
Make that motion.
Is there a second? Kathy seconds. The appointment is now open for discussion.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none. Patty, would you like us to pepper you with questions?
Of course, no.
So we're a pretty cool committee, I gotta say. So, you know, everybody wants to be on now.
Yes,
All right.
I'm
Well,
looking forward to it.
well, I appreciate you wanting to join. As I say over and over again, it takes a team of volunteers to raise a town. So,
Yes.
Thank you.
all right, if there's no more discussion, I'll take a motion on the acceptance of Patty for the Communications Committee.
Motion. Yes. So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Arnie seconded, okay. Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Arnie,
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
5 yeses. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you for being willing to join us. All right, next up on the new business is the discussion of the firefighter EMS provider position. Should actually be old business, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to read what Anthony provided for those of you who may not have a copy. We have, in response to a question about allowing full-time first responders to respond from their homes on weekends. Maine Municipal Association Attorney Michael Stoltz advised, with respect to liability, I don't believe there are any liability concerns for the town. Having an employee on call from his residence is not a source of potential liability for the municipality. That does not mean that the town would not be subject to workers' comp claims. That is always a possibility for anyone who earns a town paycheck. MMA workers' comp claims Representative Patty Cornforth confirmed that whether a case is compensable would not hinge on whether our EMS personnel are responding from their homes or from a station. If in rushing to respond to a call, a first responder slips in his driveway, falls and hurts himself, that would be that would be an injury would be compensated for. That would be true if it happened today to a volunteer responding to a call from his home or to our full-time rescue chief responding from a station. It's also true that if someone is injured in a non-work related manner at home or at work, that person could still file a claim. Whether that claim would be commensable would depend on what MMA's investigation found and how a judge ruled. Both of these represent gray areas. In short, the town suffers no greater exposure under the plan proposed by Fire Chief Dan McKenzie and endorsed by Dr. Tim Pay, Medical Director of our regional EMS group, to allow full-time responders to respond from their homes on the weekends. Chief McKenzie spoke with Rome Fire Chief Gary Foss, who supports the plan. Given Chief McKenzie's experience, judgment, and commitment to the provision of service, and considering Dr. Pay's support, Anthony is confident in the chief's plan, which may ensure higher quality candidates. If issues arise from the schedule change, I fully trust Chief McKenzie, Rescue Chief Travis Burton, and Dr. Pay will resolve those in a way that best serves the community. Being set. So we need to act on this tonight, so I'll take a motion to open the item.
I'll make that motion to open the item.
All right, Ricky seconded. So that is now open for discussion. So Ricky, one of your main concerns was whether or not the town could be held liable, correct?
One of them, yes.
And how do you feel now?
I think it's still a gray area, but fine. That's not really my concern. I got more than that. I don't care what you say. The taxpayers are paying for another full-time guy, just like they do during the regular part of the week. Why is it different on the weekend? That's what I don't quite get. You know, we've heard some responses that it isn't how quick you get there, it's the quality of people. If that's the case, why do we even bother having rescue? We could just let Delta come and take care of everything. That's kind of set me off on the wrong way. We didn't even talk about fire. I mean, when you're talking about the fire department, you need to get there quick if somebody's house is burning, not have squad showing up. So that's why I've got a different opinion on this. Yes.
I don't think I've changed my mind from the first time we talked. So it's recorded there. I still think it's a good idea. I also think that weekends are different than during the week time in terms of, you know, people having a life. And no longer can you expect that people will give up and dedicate their entire life to a town without having any family life at all. And I've seen it happen in other areas of medicine. And I happen to agree with Dr. Pay and with Dan McKenzie, the fact that it's very difficult to get people to hire on and people of quality that will commit to a job without having some relief on the weekends or some break time in the weekends.
And this too is, you know, nothing's perfect. If it doesn't work in 6 months, we're going to relook at it. And and say, hey, we need to do something different, and we'll try something else. Because I can guarantee you right now, you're gonna have more full-time people in the next few years. Because your average age and your response to people, and all these departments are doing this now, and the pool to get people is getting harder and harder to get.
Now, Dan, is it possible, so did you folks start interviews last week or this week?
Now we're reviewing them Thursday night, and that's why I kind of want a decision which way we're going to go, so I can say to the applicants that, this is what we're going to be doing. We're not interviewing Thursday night, we're just reviewing, and then it's going to set up interviews.
Okay. Now, is it possible if this is going to be reviewed at 6 months' time? Would you do like we do sometimes in the town where you have a contract for, an employment contract for 6 months and then for review? And let them know ahead of time that there may be some tweaking? Or if we get, say, in January and realize that this isn't working well?
Yeah, I think we'd give it 6 months to review it and see where it goes. And then we'll have to make a decision. If it's not working, we'll have to change. And as you add more people, it's going to work out where you would be working at the station, because then it's going to be less weekends to be getting and, to be working. The more people you get involved, it's kind of hard right now with just 2 people. It's growing pains are going to be getting involved into this, and we're one of the first in the area to do it. You're going to see more of it, and as that happens, the pool is going to get smaller and smaller for people to hire, as Dr. Pay has mentioned before. And I was just if we can keep it, we're going to interview them all, but if you get people with stakes in the community, they're probably going to stay. We hire somebody from out of state, who knows where they're going to go? They're just here for a stepping stone and going to be moving on in 6 months, and we'll be right back, hiring continually.
Right.
That's my thoughts anyway.
So I feel like my only hesitation with this is simply ensuring that essentially, if you're working from home and you have children, you have to somehow ensure that there are going to be 2 adults in the household. Because if one is working from home and needs to leave, they can't take their kids with them. So essentially, would be asking that there be a second adult that would be responsible in the event of a call.
Yeah,
And
that's what would be stipulated. Yeah, they have to respond between 8 and 8, or whatever call it. So they can't be left home with children or whatever. They have to respond.
Okay.
It's the same thing if you have a doctor or a nurse on call. If you've got to go in, you make arrangements in your household to have somebody around that takes care of kids or dogs or old people or whoever happens to be around.
And we've been doing this with volunteers for a lot of the summer weekends. We've been having on-call weekends for our volunteers. Well, they're at home, and we've even allowed them to take the truck home to be there so they can have it quicker for rescue calls. That's 90% of our calls. Yes, can it happen with a fire? Most definitely. But rescue calls is our majority of our calls, and that's where we need the help. Yes, Delta is coming, but Delta could be 20, 30 minutes. If you have somebody who's loaded on the floor and you're doing CPR and you got to wait 30 minutes for Delta to show up, they're spread pretty thin too, just like everybody else. They're having a hard time hiring people. It's a bad thing all over, from what I see.
Is there any sort of a stipulation, Dan, on how far away you can be from the station? Like if you're a doctor on call at the hospital, you can only live X number of minutes away if you need to cover something. Or even just to have certain positions.
Okay.
Is there
We haven't
something?
gone that way because I didn't know how we were going to go with it. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just,
Sorry. Yeah, it's a little delayed. So, yeah, we haven't got that far because I want to see how the town wanted to go. And then we can sit down with this hiring committee and make those adjustments.
okay. I'm comfortable with us trying a 6-month provision. You know, I have a pretty good sense from all of you. I know you all very well. And I don't sense that you take anything lightly. So I feel like as situations arise, or if there's a concern, that it would be addressed not only readily, but, you know, firmly, so that it wouldn't put the town in a position that we wouldn't want to be in. So some sort of a liability, or, you know, where there's a situation where somebody doesn't respond to a call because the other adult in the household is gone for a time. And, you know, so, you know, I've got a lot of faith in you guys, and I'm happy with giving us a 6-month trial and see how it shakes out. Clearly 6 months is going to get us through the winter. And well, wishful thinking. But, you know, will give us more opportunity to see situations that could potentially arise and how we can handle them. Steve Smith.
Hey,
There we go.
yeah.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Dan was saying. You know, I also think, you know, as we look at this, we're dealing with an imperfect situation, and, you know, trying to find a perfect solution. There really are no such thing as perfect solutions. And yeah, I think what we're trying to do as an organization is just to try to provide the towns of Belgrade and Rome with the best opportunity to provide the best quality candidates possible. And also by doing that, just trying to balance that work life. As someone that works from home, responds on calls on weekends and at nights, you know, I do work at home and I do make myself available. And if I'm on weekends, or if I'm around on weekends, I go on calls. Is there a possible delay? Well, certainly there is, but if I'm a volunteer, there's always going to be delay. Having someone have the truck at home is going to afford us that opportunity to get someone on scene quicker. And as we seem to be dealing with more and more critical patients when we're on these calls, having these people available quicker with the equipment that they need is just going to be a benefit to the community and to the residents of our community.
All right. Is there anybody else who'd like to weigh in on this?
I have kind of a curious question for Dan, and that is, what is your response time? Supposing somebody's home having a heart attack, you know, and they're on the far side of Belgrade, how long does it take you to get there? Did we lose him? Did he freeze?
Well, yeah, I mean, Belgrade? Is that what you're? Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a good 10 minutes anyway.
I can't hear very well.
Yeah, I think Dan's
That's why we're eventually we're trying to propose for the station to be in the depot, so it's actually located.
Hey, I did look up this information, guys. This is Steve Smith. I did look up this information back about a month ago when I was looking at some other things. And we seem to average about, 10 to 11 minutes per calls. Certainly you're going to have your outliers. You're going to have your call. If I'm responding from my side of Belgrade over to North Belgrade, it's going to take a lot longer. But we seem to average about between 10 to 11 minutes, with response to arrival. Certainly some of that's changed during COVID because we have to slow down some of our response times. So we have to make sure we have some of the proper equipment before we get there.
Thank you. That's just a curious question on my part.
Okay. Ernie, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just wanted to agree with you and Kathy, and to allow Dan and the rescue squad and the whole fire department to have enough flexibility to get started with this position and to see where it winds up. I mean, keep an eye on it. I understand the gravity of trying to hire people, and It's tough. I think we just need to do the best we can and let them have the leeway they need to do what they need to do. And I trust they'll keep an eye on the situation and make it work and address any issue that comes up that doesn't work going forward. So I'm all for it.
All right, Travis?
We kind of moved on to something else, but I was just going to elaborate on the response time. That, when someone's working, it makes it quicker. And like Dan said, I think you mentioned, depending on where it is in town, but they're with the rescue truck, they go out and they head out the door. There's no delay at all. They're ready to go. And I think that would be the case with whoever's working weekends. They need to be ready to respond to a call without a delay.
All right, does anybody else want to weigh in on this discussion portion before we take a vote? All right, seeing none. Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes,
Yeah, are we going to do a 6-month provision, or do we looking for a year or 6 months and then a review? Sorry. Do we want to approve this for a year and then at 6 months? Dan, would you come back and give us a feedback on how it's going?
And I'll keep you posted monthly. I mean, how it's going. And I mean,
Great.
if you guys hear something, I want to hear it from you, if you're hearing problems or anything like that. But that's my goal, is to make this work. And like I said, eventually it will change. You will be working at the station as we add more people. It's just a little hard with just 2 people with that type of schedule right this minute. So.
right.
But yes, I definitely keep you guys up to date, and I want to hear from you if you're hearing anything that's, a problem.
Okay. All right. Kathy, does your vote still stand?
Yes,
Okay, Dan, how do you vote?
Yep.
All right, Ernie, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, Rick, how do you vote?
Looks like I'm the dirty dog again. I'm voting no.
Okay, well, I'm gonna vote yes. So let's move this forward. Let's give it a try. Let's hire that second person and let's see how it goes.
Amen.
All right, thank you, folks. All right, next up on the agenda is the consideration of the Moorings Committee recommendations. All right, so on October 13, the Moorings Committee approved the following 4 recommendations by a vote of 5-0. Houseboats are defined as the overnight mooring, anchoring, tethering, or otherwise securing of water vessels should be prohibited on Belgrade's lakes if the craft has a flat deck with a beam, a boat side-to-side measurement at its widest point of 7 feet or greater, and has a superstructure above the main deck that includes a head, a toilet, a galley or sleeping quarters designed or modified for temporary or permanent living. This recommendation targets houseboats that produce waste that negatively impact water quality and detract from the character and integrity of the lakes. Both concerns are heightened by the likelihood houseboats would be rented through sites such as Airbnb. The recommendation's limited nature would continue to let recreational boaters sleep overnight on their personal crafts, either anchored, moored, or secured within 200 feet of shore, or tethered to a dock with the owner's permission. That is in keeping with public sentiment heard during an August Select Board meeting and a subsequent public forum. State law prohibits spending the night on the water more than 200 feet from shore. If the town adopts this regulation as an ordinance, it would be enforced by the code enforcement officer responding to citizen complaints. Moorings. The town should adopt the coastal standard of limiting moorings to 1 for every 50 feet of a property owner's shoreline, so long as safe navigation is unimpeded. This would ensure moorings do not mushroom uncontrolled. Existing moorings with floats in the Great Pond stream, as inventoried in October 2020, would be excluded from the regulation. Public education. The town should engage in a campaign to inform boaters of the state law prohibiting disposing of waste in lakes. This effort would include postings at public boat landings and flyers handed to boat owners as they register their crafts. The disposal of any waste, human or otherwise, on Main Lakes is policed by the Warden Service and punishable by maximum fines of $500 for a first offense and $1,000 for subsequent offenses. Lakes Committee. The Moorings Committee should become a standing committee rebranded as the Lakes Committee. This group would meet at least once annually to consider evolving concerns that may need addressing. It would also partner with the Seven Lakes Alliance and local lake associations to address lake-related issues. Its membership should include one representative each from the Belgrade Lakes Association, the Friends of Messalonsky, and the McGraw Pond Salmon Lake Association, one seasonal resident, and 3 select board appointees. If the select board agrees with this recommendations, the Moorings Committee will work with the town attorney to craft a proposed ordinance regarding houseboats and moorings for the board's review and approval. Voter consideration should occur during town meeting in the spring. I'll take a motion.
I'll make that motion. Appreciate the board's work.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it and say thank you very much for all your work, Moorings Committee. I have
Okay,
a couple questions on it, that's all.
yep, it is now open for discussion. One thing I do want to point out under Lakes Committee, a membership, it can actually have 3 select board members on it because any group of 3 or more select board members meeting becomes a select board meeting.
Melanie, I think the intention there was not that select board members serve, but that the select board members appoint those 3 committee members.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see. 3 select board appointees. I see.
Yes,
So in other words, they're sort of wild cards that you guys would choose from among the community who weren't necessarily affiliated with one of the lake associations.
So 3 select board appointees not previously mentioned, or,
Correct.
well, they're not select board members.
right, so they would be, and 3 persons appointed by the select board, not,
Yes, ma'am.
not, I'm not thinking of the word. I know what I'm trying to say.
Glad you do.
All right, who would like to take the lead?
Well, I just have a couple questions. Under the mooring section, it's okay if I speak here?
Yes.
Okay, the town should adopt the coastal standard of limiting moorings to 1 for every 50 feet of a property owner's shoreline, as long as safe navigation is unimpeded. Is that with the owner's permission? The owner of the lakefront property? It doesn't say if there's, it says within a property owner's shoreline, but it doesn't say. Pat, can you answer that question for me? Where are you, Herder?
Oh, Pat, you're muted. It's the 2020 catchphrase.
You're muted.
Right, you're muted.
Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's a property owner's shoreline.
Yeah, so I think the intent there, Kathy, was that these are moorings that would be placed by the owners of the property, not just someone just
Okay.
willy-nilly dropping a mooring in front of somebody else's property.
Okay, maybe it should be more specific in stating that, because I didn't get it from just reading that. So, just saying. And the other thing is existing moorings with floats in the Great Pond stream. Is that the mill stream, or is there a Great Pond stream that I've yet to discover?
It's the mill stream.
It is the mill stream. Okay. Thank you.
And can I ask, following it up on that same section, how many moorings existed in October 2020?
I'm gonna do a count tomorrow, but my rough count was, and I'll tell you who has them, that we've identified: 6 for Brightside, Seven Lakes Alliance 4, the Belgrade Lakes Yacht Club, looks like 2. They have, I've got to confirm that with them this week. And then there was some various other ones. It looks like there's an old swim float that's moored off by the Pent Large property on the Mill Stream. I'm not sure who has that one. And I'll take photographs of them all and locate them for you and identify the owners of those moorings.
Okay, thank you.
And I did not count the ones in Rome, some on off the Rome, there's a few of them on the Rome side that come from Rome property owners.
Okay. So I want to back up. One of our other meetings where we talked about this, folks were saying that it isn't really a concern and they hadn't heard anything about it. And I wondered if anybody else had seen the lake house that is for rent and is now for sale on Moosehead Lake.
No.
So this is exactly what we're trying to avoid in Belgrade. It is essentially a floating camp. It's outfitted with bunk beds and the like, and they rent it as a ice fishing camp through the winter, and in the summertime they rent it by the week. They don't pay taxes. That's one of the things that they're saying in there for sale, is that this floating camp can be moved wherever you want to put it on Moosehead Lake, and they're selling it for $28,000. And they have created a very successful business out of this over the last couple of years. But they said one of their things is no regulations by the state, nothing by the town. You don't pay any taxes. So you buy this floating camp, and for $28,000, you can have your business here. And so this is an example of where it is happening in the state of Maine. And the folks whose property they put this in front of on Moosehead Lake have, their hands are tied. There's literally nothing they can do. So it is. And, so it's good that we are stepping ahead of this and trying to figure out how to best mitigate it and perhaps avoid some of those scenarios.
I have a little question. Might I ask it?
Yes.
Pat, are there situations extant where there are moorings closer already established than 50 feet apart? I'm thinking, for instance, of Crystal Springs, which you'd be familiar with. And is that, that's Rome. I gotcha. So would it be retroactive? Are there no situations like that in Belgrade?
We haven't really looked. Just for example, the Hoyts Island camps where I live at the end of Hoyts Island, we have 18 camps, 18 moorings, and we have 2,100 feet of frontage. So, and we seem to be one of the more denser areas where there's moorings, and it's still, we would be under this ordinance.
Maggie, if I may weigh in as well, don't misread that regulation. It's not that the moorings would have to be 50 feet apart from one another. It's just that you couldn't have more than one mooring for every 50 feet of property. So let's say you have 200 feet of shoreline, you could have 4 moorings. As long as they are not impeding safe navigation, you can put them as close to one another as you'd like.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what are we doing tonight? Are we moving forward with the recommendation that this be developed into some kind of ordinance for the townspeople to vote on?
Yes.
So Kathy, if the board agrees with these recommendations, I'll start working with the town attorney to craft the legal language that will be necessary to codify this.
Thank you.
Do you want, do you want a motion to agree with these recommendations? Is that what we're looking for?
I would think, I would actually want to separate them out and have the 3 recommendations from the moorings committee on houseboats, moorings, and a public education campaign. And then I would take the lakes committee, moving from an ad hoc committee to a standing committee, be taken separately. If that makes sense to everyone.
Okay.
And if I may, I don't know that the public education, I mean, obviously that's not going to be part of the ordinance. The ordinance would consist of the houseboats and the moorings, just FYI.
That's true.
Yeah, and then I am frankly uncertain as to whether or not when a new committee is formed, a new standing committee, whether or not that requires an ordinance or simply a motion of the board to approve a charge and bylaws and so forth.
Yeah, I'm willing to make a motion that we approve what this committee is doing and send them forward to complete their, what they've stated here. Does that make sense?
So parts 1 and 2, so the houseboats and the moorings, that we would move that forward with the town attorney to craft a proposed ordinance to be given to the townspeople at the next town meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Ellen, I guess I got a question.
Okay.
Is this something are we reinventing the wheel? Has somebody already done this in the state of Maine? Somebody must have it. Did somebody come up with this? I'm sure there's got to be an ordinance already written someplace that maybe we could copy and not have to go through a bunch of attorney stuff. We seem to do stuff the hard way in Belgrade. I don't get it.
So Rick, the ordinance that we were initially working from was from the town of Wilton. And you may recall that they simply outlaw any staying aboard any boat on their lake unless it is docked overnight or moored overnight at a marina with pump out capabilities. Of course, we don't have a marina with pump out capabilities currently. And if we were to do that, then it would also prevent the recreational boaters from staying on the lake. And this ordinance is meant to target houseboats in particular. And so we studied some other towns' ordinances. We didn't find anything that was quite like this. Pat, do you agree with that assessment?
I do. We even, looked at all our New England states, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts for, what they have. And we have a unique situation where we just want to regulate houseboats, not sleep aboard recreational boats that people have historically done. And there was loud support for allowing recreational boats to have overnight capabilities. So we had to come up with a definition of a houseboat that was pretty and stood alone from a recreational boat. That's why it seems more complicated than just saying no houseboats. We had to define what we see as a houseboat. So a recreational boater would know they're not houseboats by definition.
That answered that question. The next one is, I'm still not sure how we're going to enforce this. When we do this, we need to have a plan to enforce it. And I don't know, I haven't heard much about that. Can somebody enlighten me a little bit on that?
So a couple different comments on that, Rick. One is that this will be as we enforce a lot of our codes. A citizen complains to us about something, and then we send the code enforcement officer out to check it out. And I actually think the enforcement when it comes to houseboats may be pretty easy because you'll see a large vessel there and you'll be able to tell if it has a superstructure on the main deck and if it's has a flat deck and is wide enough to meet these standards. So in that regard, I think it'll be pretty easy. we haven't really seen any issues with moorings. We're just trying to prevent any sort of mushrooming of those. But that's one of the reasons why we have also, or why this moorings committee has also recommended making them a standing committee, so that as issues sort of arise over the course of time, that we have a group in place that can address those issues and come back to you with some advice on how Belgrade might best address those.
I have a question.
Okay.
And that is, as I think about houseboats, I think about them as being, pretty substantial vessels. And do we have lake launches that you can get a houseboat in the lake with? I think about the one down in, down by Castle Island, you get a houseboat on the lake down there and you're not going to get it under the bridge if you want to come up one pond. So I'm just wondering if a houseboat came up the turnpike and wanted to stick itself in the lake, do we really have any place to launch one?
Kathy, Pat here.
Yes, sir.
The typical, 24, pontoon 30 feet long, and they're launching easily from the state landing. And that's pretty much what a houseboat could be, just with a more superstructure that's more rigorous than what's on a pontoon boat with the sleeping and head facilities in it. So they're not heavy boats. They're pretty much, they're built to be light. They travel on the road to get from lake to lake. So they could go down there, and they're pontoon type boats, so they don't need much draft. So when I've seen it,
Okay.
looking at other states, what they have, they say it's just like an RV. You can tow it from lake to lake, put it right in at almost any type of state landing or reasonable access. So I wouldn't see any difficulty for them to get on our lakes.
Well,
Thank you.
If they don't go back and lock up the gate over by Hammond Lumber, you're gonna start seeing a bunch of boats going into that lake. It was wide open the other day.
Really?
Yep. Matter of fact, I saw a guy putting a boat in there.
Who's responsible for keeping it locked? Well, that's another, I don't want to digress this, but that's interesting. It's an interesting question. Thank you for saying that, Dan.
And who'd you call, Dan?
I didn't call anybody.
All right. Is there a second on Ernie's motion?
I have something to add.
Okay, go ahead. Hi, Joan.
Hey, have you guys looked at Title 38, Waters and Navigation, Chapter 1, Operation of Vessels, and Subchapter 1, Harbor Masters, about mooring sites?
You might want to enlighten us, Joan, because I don't have a copy of that in front of me. Do you?
Yeah, I had it from a long time ago because I was having an issue with somebody putting a dock on my right-of-way area of my property. They had a right-of-way to get to the lake, but not put a dock, and they were putting a dock. So I was trying to find ordinances to keep them from doing that. This one's about mooring sites. So I didn't know if the town had a harbor master kind of person, because it includes not just moorings from harbors, but it includes great ponds too, as far as the rules go.
So one thing that we do know is that if you have a moorings ordinance, by state law, you must name a harbor master. And I've checked with the MMA on this, and we could name our CEO as the harbor master.
Okay. So that would limit, like, who can put a mooring where on the lake, I think. I haven't read it for a while, but, that ordinance would come into play possibly in this. It's Title 38, Waters and Navigation, Chapter 1, Operation.
Wow, that is so neat. Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why we want the town attorney involved in the crafting of this ordinance to ensure that it jibes with state law.
Yeah.
Joan, do you mind just repeating for me one more time what that is? I've got Title 38, Waters and Navigation, Chapter 1.
Operation of Vessels, subchapter 1, harbor masters, and then it's like section 3, I guess. I don't know what the little squiggly is, but it says the 3 next to the symbol, and it says mooring sites. If there's some way I can like send a link, I could do that.
You can do that through the chat room, can't you?
Oh, let me try.
Or you're welcome to just email that to me at townmanager@townofbelgrade.com.
Okay.
Great.
See if I can put it in the chat.
If she puts it in the chat room, then we all can see it.
Yeah. Well, it says to Anthony Wilson on there.
Yeah, the chat is
Oh,
so that we're not having side discussions that might violate state law, the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah.
All
I
the
sent
chats
it.
come to me.
I sent it to you, Anthony,
Okay, thank you.
on the chat.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
is
because
that-
sorry.
I was
Didn't
just
mean
gonna
to
ask,
interrupt
is it something that you can share with us, Anthony, that we might be able to read quickly, or?
Oh, no, I don't think,
Probably a large document.
yeah.
It's not that long. It's like it's a short document, really. Short link thing.
Well, so our vote is just to move forward with, as you said, I just want to get it straight in my head. Melanie, you said moorings and houseboats, right? Houseboats and moorings.
Yeah, so the motion on the table, I believe by Ernie, is to approve the definitions for houseboats and moorings and to authorize the moorings committee to work with the town attorney to craft a proposed ordinance
Thank you.
regarding houseboats and moorings for the board's review and approval, go to consideration to be to occur in the spring at town meeting.
Okay.
Was there a second to your motion, Ernie?
There was. Kathy Wall made it.
I
Okay,
seconded it.
I thought there was. Is there any more
At the
discussion?
at the
on
time,
that?
I remembered what it was.
All right, seeing no further discussion. Rick, how do you vote?
So let it go to the voters.
Okay, Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, Ernie?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. So let's move forward crafting something. I appreciate your work on this, you guys.
So if I may ask a follow-up question then, so are you interested in proceeding with making the moorings committee a standing committee? And if so, what's the proper process for doing that? Does that require an ordinance, or can that simply be done by board action once we bring you a charge and some bylaws?
I believe that's done by board action. I was trying to remember when the communications committee was set up.
There is no ordinance for the communications committee. There are for some of our committees, but not for the communications committee.
When the comprehensive plan review committee was created, it was simply created and approved by the Board of Select people.
Well, that would definitely be the easiest, cleanest process.
Right.
Okay. So can I take it then that you guys are interested in seeing a formal proposal for that?
Well, that was going to be the second part of
Oh,
this.
pardon me.
Remember, I said we'll split them out. So I'll take a motion on creating the moorings committee to become the lakes committee. And meeting once annually or twice
Well-
annually?
Well, we just said at least once annually. So it may meet multiple times, but at least once a year gathered to see if there are any issues that need addressing.
I'll make that motion that the moorings committee morphs into the lakes committee.
All right, I'll second that.
Amen.
I'll second it too, but I want to see what it sort of looks like.
Well, and I think that's what we're looking at, is putting together like a charge, and then that will come before the select board.
Yes, okay.
tweak it as necessary, and then we'll decide whether or not it moves forward as a standing committee instead of an ad hoc committee.
Right.
But at this point, the ad hoc committee has completed what we gave them for a charge.
Yes.
All right, is there any more discussion on that?
So that makes them a not ad hoc committee anymore, right?
Nope, makes them official. We'll have to appoint him and reappoint him and.
But it wouldn't yet until they come up with a plan, correct?
Right,
Exactly.
So right now, there's still going to be an ad hoc committee.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ricky, how do you vote?
I'll take a look at it.
Is that a yes?
Well, yeah, I'm going to take a look at it.
Dan, how do you vote?
I love you, Ricky.
I'll vote yes to take a look at it, but I'm not real in favor of another full committee that we have to deal with appointments and stuff. So we'll see how it looks. So yes, yes, we'll look at it.
Okay, Ernie, you?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. All right, thank you, folks. All right,
Thank you
next,
very much, Pat Donahue and all of your crew.
If I may, just for a moment, Melanie, these guys put in a lot of time and brain power in coming up with this. And they're just a great group of people. I feel like I've made 7 new friends through the committee. So they're great people. I really appreciate them.
Remind me all their names again.
So we have here with us tonight, we have Pat Donahue. He chaired the group. We have Jim Hillier, who is right now joining us from his winter home in Florida. We have Paul Feinberg.
yes.
We have Kathy McElway and Sean Grant. And then we had one other member, Gary. Oh, shoot. Now I'm drawing a blank on Gary's. Oh, Lenny. There's Lenny Wright, of course. And Gary Dustin, who was serving as our Messalonsky representative, but just recently sold his property on Messalonsky.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Roxy.
Yeah.
Come.
Thanks.
Come here. Come. Roxy. Come.
I love it when somebody else's dog's
I'm
acting
here.
up.
I'm here.
All right, so next up, we have the consideration of the transfer station paving bids. So we received 4 bids. Bono and Son Excavation of Skowhegan submitted the lowest of the 4 complete bids with a price of $55,519. I'm going to take a motion to open this.
I'll make a motion to open it.
Second it.
All right, motioned and seconded. This is open for discussion. Anthony, do you know what we put in for the top price for that? Like, what did we budget for that paving project?
We didn't never set a amount that we were budgeting for that project. The plan was always to pay that from the transfer station capital reserve.
Right.
So it's not an operating budget cost. The capital reserve is right now a little over $100,000. So we do have the money to pay for this, and the budget is in very good shape. You know, Ken has very frugally spent this year, and so we'll have an opportunity at the end of the year to rebuild that capital reserve to some extent.
So it seems to me that in the transfer station and recycling budget, that there is indeed a line item for paving.
There was, but it was, I think, Ken, remind me, was it $10,000? But I mean, obviously, you know, once we got some folks out there to take a look at it, we knew that $10,000 was not going to come close to covering this cost.
We had a, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We had $7,600 that we carried over, which was the prior year, Melanie, not this year. We do have a $10,000 for a special project, but again, didn't come anywhere near what we needed to do.
So is this the 5-year plan for paving? So if we approve a $55,000 expenditure out of the capital reserve fund, are we caught up on the paving at the transfer station? Everything that needs to be paved will be done.
Absolutely not. We're gonna have to keep on going. Maybe not next year, but within the next couple of years, there's gonna be another section. If you remember last year, the whole driveway just kind of upheaved everywhere, and it was a big problem last year. We don't know if the same thing's gonna happen again this year, because last year was the first time that happened. This section is the whole section up by the recycle center that is just all alligatored and just popping up everywhere. We're just losing it really quick. So that whole area needs to be done first. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
one of the-
that going forward, the infrastructure is just, it's gonna have to be taken care of over the years. I know 6 years ago, we did the one section up top from all the way up top where the brush area is coming down around the bottom. We did that about 6 years ago. 2 years ago, we did the ramps and the part right directly behind the recycle center. Now we have to do this other part, and it's just going to be continuous. It's a big facility, and there's a lot of stuff starting to deteriorate. So it's going to be ongoing, I believe.
Melanie, we did look at the possibility of paving the road that Kenny mentioned that heaved so badly last winter. And that project alone was in excess of $80,000. I mean, we simply don't have the money available at the moment to do that, but we think this is a good start to addressing some of the other needs at the facility. And then what we'll do is what we always do. We'll save up to address the next need.
All right, is there any more discussion on this?
I have another curious question.
Bring it.
That is, I don't know any of these contractors other than the McGee Company, which seems to be the high bidder. You know these people to be is it the Banu brothers or Banu and Son? They do quality work. Have they worked for us before?
No, they have not.
The same.
Do you know people that they have worked for?
We will check their references before we sign a contract with them.
Thank you. I would appreciate it if you would. And the other thing is that I'm a big fan of timelines and penalties for not reaching those timelines. And if that's a little too rigid for all you guys, I can understand that. But you just need to know that those are the kind of things that run through my mind.
So Kathy, I think we learned a valuable lesson with our paving project last year that we have to have some deadlines for completing the work and some punitive damages for on a daily basis for each day that work is not completed on time.
Thank you.
I've got a quick question on the proposal.
Yeah.
It says A, B, C, E, and F. What happened to D on the picture?
I don't have the picture in front of me, Dan. I apologize for that.
The picture of the D is the section right in front of the recycling building where the windows are.
Yeah,
So-
that is included in the price.
Okay, it's not included in the proposal up top where it lists out the areas.
So Dan, it actually is. So if underneath that bullet, the second bullet under where it says alternate proposal number 4, that addresses area D.
That's what I'm looking at. Alter proposal number 4. Where does it say D?
The second bullet.
The current pavement grade of area D may be an issue and needs to be addressed for area B and C to be properly overlaid.
Yeah, that's not the one I'm looking at. I'm looking at the one up above. Right after the 4 bids, the next page is Bono and Sons. The second bullet doesn't say anything about D other than type D gravel.
Anthony, I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. Did they get the updated one that we just looked at last week?
Yeah, so Dan, if you'll flip the page, D is addressed, let me see, on the third bullet where it says alternate proposal 1.
Yeah.
The current.
You know what?
pavement-
You know,
I see where the current pavement grade of area E and D, is that the one?
yes,
Maybe an issue and need to be addressed
yes,
for area B and C to be properly overlaid.
yeah.
The
So
area
that,
to be
that doesn't,
inspected.
so it doesn't sound like that's part of the paving. It sounds like it's part of the inspection and to pave B and C.
You are correct, Melanie. I don't think you guys have the update. Anthony, I don't think they have the updated one that included that area to be paved. That was the last page that we received. If it says it may need to be addressed, that is not the updated one.
Well, this one says it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I thought for sure we had that nailed down.
Okay, so what's the status of D? I mean, basically it's part of the whole proposal?
That's
I
part
tell you
of the whole proposal, which if you have, what was it, 58,000? I'm not, I really,
The total proposal is 55,000.
yeah. And that includes that area. As soon as I get in the office tomorrow, I can send it right over to everybody.
Okay, so that includes D?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
I'll make sure everybody sees that. I don't know why we don't have it there.
Yeah, because the drawing I'm showing shows the start of alternate roadway, but it doesn't say D was the alternate.
Yeah, that area against the building is going to need to be torn out, and because of the grade issue, it definitely needs to be excavated out. Because it's right level with the doorways on the side of the building, so it needs to be excavated out. So we can't overlay it; it would just be too high at that point. So we had to rebid it. That's where we came up with the 55,000. And we do have that. I apologize, you guys didn't get it.
Okay, yeah, because the only proposal I've got here is the 48,000, and then 2 alternates were 19, and one was something was 20 something. Yeah, 595, and then 2 other lower ones, alternates.
Because the whole area should be 7,800 square feet total. So I'm not sure what you have over there. I can't see.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's a typo, if they simply forgot to put D in there in that bullet, because that area with D is 7,800 square feet.
7,800 square feet is total.
Yeah, but the problem, the thing is though, with the 70, if they forgot it on there, then with that 7,800 square feet, the total price is 48,595.
So what Kenny is saying is if you put D, if you add all of those areas together with D, that is 7,800 square feet.
That's correct.
But what I'm saying though is the proposal for 7,800 square feet is 48,595.
Yes, sir. And what I'm saying is, I think that, and we'll double check this tomorrow. And if you guys want to table this, we're fine with it. But I think that they may have just forgot, it's a typo. So they forgot to put the D in the first bullet.
But if the D was, if the D is supposed to be there under the 7,800 square feet, isn't it supposed to be 55,000, not 48?
No, sir. What I'm saying is, I think they just omitted D as they were typing it out. They just omitted the letter D.
Okay.
Good catch, Dan.
But
But
okay.
I think if it's a contract though, and we're accepting the proposal, that it has to be, there can't be typos.
Agreed.
No, we'll get it right.
So if the proposal including D is the 48,595, where are we spending the other $6,000?
The other $6,000 is for ditching. So on that map where it says the perimeter ditch, that covers the ditching in that area.
That's just the ditching. Okay.
Yep.
The only problem you're gonna have, you don't want to delay this too long or it's not gonna get done this year.
That's right.
Right.
Honestly, I don't think they're gonna be able to make, at this point, I don't think they're gonna be able to make it in this year, Rick. Until spring.
Then let's table this until we get the right numbers where
Yeah,
they.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
And
I
then we,
feel better.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
All right. There's been a motion to table this to our next meeting, motion and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Just, I apologize, you don't have the right stuff. I'll get it for you.
It's all right. It's trickier when we're all doing this from home. So, you know, at the town office, we just grab it, make a copy, and give it to everybody. All right, Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ricky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie, how do you vote? All right, 5 for tabling this to the next meeting.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, good night.
All right, next up on the agenda is a consideration of a town flag policy. We do not currently have a policy. Let me see. So let me read, I'll read what Anthony has put out. Well, actually, let me take a motion, open it for this first.
I'll make that motion.
Make the motion, we open it.
All right, so there's a motion and a second to open it. This is now open for discussion. So at the last meeting, or a couple of meetings ago, we had asked about a proposed flag policy. During public comment, we had some concerns raised about flags that had been put up and then taken down. The town currently does not have a flag policy. So right before us tonight, we have 4 options that have been offered. And we're open to considering other options. So we don't have a flag policy, and this is how we create one. Option 1 is doing nothing. Option 2 is that the select board decides. Town residents wishing to fly a flag on town property would email that request along with a depiction of the flag to the town manager. The manager would place the request on the select board agenda. The board would determine whether to fly the flag, where and for how long. Applicants must donate the flag, which would then become town property. The select board's nearly annual membership changes work against a consistent application. Adopting this policy could place this and future select boards into the uncomfortable position of serving as the arbiters of town sensibilities. Option 3 is the American and the Maine flags exclusively. This policy is simple, objective, and able to be consistently applied over time. This is the standard which we've had up until now. Option 4 is one that Dan Newman came up with. And he suggested that the select board consider applications to fly flags related to governmental taxpayer-supported functions like the military and law enforcement. If the agency has a formal recognized flag like military branches and the fire services Maltese cross symbol, that flag would be flown. If a function has no formal flag, an alternate banner representing that function may be flown. The board would determine whether to fly a flag, where and for how long. Applicants must donate the flag, which would become town property. There have been a couple of other suggestions that came forward. I think most recent was just today. So how does the board want to do this? I'll take a little bit of direction here. Do we want to read each letter that has come in about this?
No,
No.
I don't, but I don't know about other people. I'm only one person.
Did we all get a copy of all of the letters and everybody have a chance to review the ones that came through today?
I believe so.
Okay.
I will say that all the letters that I received, I did forward to you guys.
Well, I didn't have any. I worry more, I think, about the folks who aren't part of the board who may not have access to all of that.
Well, I think I'm just looking at the screen here, and maybe with with very few exceptions, I included all those materials in letting folks know about this meeting going on. So I think most folks have had the opportunity, and they have been posted on our website since last Thursday.
Okay. Thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Including the one we got today?
So I sent that to you guys. I received that after I had sent the reminder out. So folks have not, other than the select board, folks have not seen that idea.
Okay.
All right, so let me take a look at that one because that may be.
That's the one from Gary, I think, isn't it? Is that
It
the one-
is, and I have it right here. If
Yeah,
you'd like me to read it.
Yeah, if you have it handy.
Okay.
Anthony, that would be good. just
Mr.
so I can-
Mahler, I assume you don't mind? All right. So I received this email at 11:06 this morning from Gary Mahler. It said that first responder flags on first responder property or buildings if first responders want them. U.S. and state flags in other town-controlled areas. So this is, I guess, the Mahler proposal, if you will. He says that in Gary's opinion, the plan that Dan suggested has too many options and way too many ways to display flags that are not accepted by the majority of the public. He said, by the way, the two first responder flags that aren't flying, and those are currently on Cemetery Road, don't look like other thin blue and thin red flags I've seen, and that's true. I believe they are black with red and blue stripes, as they are. The flags below, when he sent depictions, seem to be the more acceptable of the ones I've seen. And these are the American flags that are gray and black and white with just one thin blue stripe and one thin red stripe. I believe I'm a big supporter of police and firefighters. I believe they have the right to display, if they want to, flags that point out their pride in what they do. And that gets back to what he was saying about at first responder buildings. I don't believe at all that these flags have been politicized, and I'm amazed that other people think so. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you for reading that. Are we adding that to our list as the Mahler proposal? Or the Mahler plan?
We'll call it the Mahler proposal. Dan,
Yeah, before we get too far on the option 4, the Newman plan, which I actually kind of take exception to, because that isn't exactly what I said. I didn't know if you guys were going to discuss it last week when I wasn't going to be around. Basically, what I suggested is I'd like to see on Cemetery Road where all the American flags, what I'd like to see if we could come up with a plan is put one flag for each military branch. Instead of having all American flags, have an American flag, a state flag, one from each military branch, the fire department, the Maltese one that we use. I don't particularly like the black and red flags that are there now. I would prefer to go to the original one for the police that actually was developed in 1950s. And it's actually, I don't know if you can see that. That's the actual original one that was developed. And I'd like to see one for the EMS personnel. That's what I suggested. And I didn't say anything about people buying them and donating them. If we're going to fly them, I think the town should buy them and put them up.
And that is true. So those about the applicants donating the flags to the property, that was something that I added to that just for consistency with how the select board might decide these happen. And the thinking behind that was simply that, we don't want people flying tattered flags that, if they want to donate that flag, then we'll be the caretakers of that to make sure that it's presentable to the public.
Okay.
Okay, so then,
So
so that's the new Newman plan.
that's
Yeah,
the
which
new-
I don't like the idea of Newman plan.
Well,
I'd
whatever.
I'd rather work with it as me, the select board plan, whatever we decide.
It's okay. You just have to take responsibility for what it is you put forward. That's
Right.
all. I frankly like, out of all of these, for me, it's option 3 and or Gary's plan. I think first responder flags can go on first responder property, and I think that the flags that the town flies should be as they've always been, Main State flag or a national flag. And God knows that there's so many different flags that are available to us. And, why should it, I'm also part of the argument about why should it be just first responders and EMS if you're going to include those flags? I'd like to give you a nurse's flag. And what about the emergency room folks? And, there's just a lot of options there. So rather than get into who chooses what, I think we should just sort of stick with American flag and state flag and first responders, and people in their own private property can put up whatever flags they want to, because you're not making towns. I don't believe towns are supposed to be making political statements about anything. I think that they are a nonpartisan group of people. I mean, the town government needs to be nonpartisan, because there's just so many small splinter groups these days that you just cannot include them all. So that's my short story. And Gary said it more succinctly than I did, so.
Well, and I think that's where I was at our last meeting, that, I feel like we should fly the national flag and the Main State flag. And if we want to develop a flag policy, I don't think that, it can be political. It doesn't have anything to do with who I support or who I don't support or anything like that. The two flags that are currently there now are essentially flags for mourning. That these are not representative of, some of the thin blue line flags and stuff that have been out there now. And I feel like if we have a situation like that in Belgrade, then perhaps one of those flags would be appropriate, and it would be appropriate at the fire station or at the town office. But I feel confident that if we wanted to consider a flag policy to fly a secondary flag at the town office, that perhaps it could be something like a monthly flag. And for January, some sort of a celebration, and you pick where those are going to be, and it flies for 1 month, and then the flag comes down. But it's the third flag in the poll, because it's the first two that are the most important to us as citizens. So that's where I stand on that. Who's got Bruce?
So if we go with like option 3, what does that do for the flags at the cemetery that is on the grave sites that we put out as volunteers or as town representatives?
Nothing.
That's essentially, those grave sites are sort of essentially private property, aren't they? They're paid for by the families.
And then the volunteers put flags on representative of firefighters and police and things like that, correct?
Right.
Veterans.
Yep, veterans. I don't think it affects that at all.
I don't think it changes that. I wouldn't think so.
Ernie? Can't hear you, Ernie.
Are you,
Ernie, you look to be muted, but there's no sound coming. Your lips are moving. That's it.
oh,
It's gonna turn into the chicken dance.
Go ahead.
There you go. You're back.
I am.
Yep.
yeah, there you
Little
are.
bit.
Hear me now?
A
Yeah.
little bit. You're
Just
kind of
barely.
Well, I'm just, I guess I'm in favor of option 4 in that I don't, I like the idea of governmental taxpayer supported functions. I really don't see what the political statement is when we all depend upon firefighters, police, and it doesn't matter. I mean, teachers, nurses, emergency personnel, you know, we all pay for this and expect this service. And, you know, in this day and age, very unfortunately, in this day and age, there's a lot of backlash against these people who have chosen this occupation to, you know, serve the public. And I you know, I really have a hard time with what the issue is with, you know, flying a flag of support for these groups that we already support with our taxes to, you know, put our fires out and respond to us in emergency medical situations, criminal situations. I mean, I just, this is where I stand. I just, that's my take on it. I like the, I don't want to refer to it as how it's been referred to, but it's the
How would you
it's a
refer?
good plan. And I'm in favor of it. I like, you know, Dan's sensibility on it.
Jay, earlier you said you wanted to weigh in.
Yes, thanks. So some of the comments that I was going to make have already been made, but I reflected quite a bit on the comments that were made 2 meetings ago when this was discussed, and I have just a few brief points that I appreciate the opportunity to make. The first is that I think verbal comments should not be dismissed or minimized. When this was brought up originally, there was a comment that was made that if it wasn't in writing, it didn't happen. And I've sat in your seat, and I know that there are a lot of comments that happen at the transfer station and around town. And I know you all listen to those type of things. And so I think it's helpful to acknowledge that any comments that come in are heard and are not minimized. And I think also that I appreciate that the discussion tonight has stayed focused on the issue at hand, which is flags on poles and flags on buildings. It's not talking about library programs, and I appreciate that you've clarified the gravestones. I think one of the nice things that can happen in a policy is you say, this is what it is. And if you're going to talk about poles and town buildings, that's what it is. It's not those other things. Those other things can be discussed on their own. I also think that, you know, supporting one position, like focusing on the US and the main flags, should not be confused or misinterpreted as opposition to any group. I mean, I know many of you, and you know that I've spent my life working in public safety, and I was actually one of the founding members of the Belgrade Rescue Squad. And so I've spent my life supporting that. But I also say that, you know, I think when I think of the drive down Cemetery Road, I think there's something really visually powerful about seeing all American flags, for example. I mean, it's really striking to see that many US flags in a row in the same place. And that's a symbol that unites us. And I think when a town is developing a policy, having policies that really unite us completely is where we ought to focus our attention. So that's really where I come from. I think sometimes like fewer words is better, which is always a challenge for me, as you know. I think sometimes fewer flags is also very powerful in the statement that I can make. So thank you. That's really the points that I wanted to make.
Thank you.
Mac?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing I love about Belgrade is just how kind everybody is. And when we first moved here with our family, nobody asked me what my job was and then treated me accordingly. I didn't have to have the right job for somebody to be kind to me. Nobody asked me how old I was, and then based on my age, they treated me accordingly. People are just kind because, as Jay just said, we have our similarities are greater than our differences. And I think if we start down the path of identifying differences, then you can find numerous differences, and then you start focusing on the differences instead of the similarities. The American flag is how we are similar, and it demonstrates how our similarities are greater than our differences. Now, even if you talk about supported by the state or supported by taxes, yes, police supported by taxes. Yes, firefighters supported by taxes. But teachers are supported by taxes. Ed techs are supported by taxes. Department of Transportation people are supported by taxes. If they didn't fix our culverts, we might drive off the road and hurt ourselves. So, I mean, yes, I see your argument about these people, but hopefully you can see mine that if you start down that path, you can find numerous other positions. And so rather than focus on the distinctions, let's focus on how we are all just kind to each other and our similarities.
All right. Does anyone else want to speak? Lonnie?
Hey, I just wanted to sort of echo what Jay said, that, you know, my letter was not meant to attack or denigrate first responders in any way, shape, or form. And I've been listening to the select board and some other topics tonight. And one of the things that Ricky said was, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Hasn't somebody done this before? We seem to do this the hard way. I don't get it. So by going with option 4 and having another task for the select board to have to decide each time somebody comes up with a new idea, I feel like that's reinventing the wheel. Anthony got some recommendations from other towns and from the Maine Municipal Association said, keep it simple, American flag, state flag. Another thing that Dan had said was, I'm not a fan of having another committee to look at more information. So I think that if you go with option 4, again, you're going to be opening yourself up for more interpretation. And I don't think the town needs to take a stance politically or otherwise. That's not its job to endorse that. So my simple request is a simple flag policy with the Maine flag and the American flag. And it makes sense to me though with Gary's option. If the fire department wants to hang fire department flags, have at it. So that's my 2 cents.
So I think we call that the jewel policy because that's the one I said 2 meetings ago. Keep it simple. Penny? Oh, you're still muted, Penny.
Thank you for the opportunity, Melanie.
You're welcome.
I think right now with what's happening with the police, that they are under attack, that it would be a good time for us as a community to come together in support of them and our first responders. Not that we need to do this monthly or yearly or anything else, but as a sign of the times, to just reiterate as a town, we do stand for those who are willing to put their life on the line for us. If something else came up down the road, an issue nationally or in Maine, and we wanted to show support for an issue or whatever, possibly or never. But my take on this right now is police are under assault. and it's really tragic. And I think it's not a political issue. It's an issue, a consolidated issue on police. And I was just thinking that it would be a neat thing to stand with them, I guess is the way I'd put it. Thank you for the opportunity again.
You're welcome. Dan?
Yeah, one last thing I want to mention is it's not like we'd be setting a precedent either. State of Maine on state property, right over at the State House, has a firefighter flag. It's at the firefighter memorial. I know they don't have one for police officers because obviously they don't really have a general flag for them, but the National Law Enforcement Memorial has a official flag for law enforcement. I mean, we could use that flag for law enforcement if we wanted to. So it's not like we're setting a precedent. There are organizations that have on federal and state property that have these flags.
Well, Dan, I have to say though, it would be setting a precedent because we don't have a memorial set in the town of Belgrade where we could fly a specific flag.
But it's a cemetery. You don't
It's
have any law enforcement people
road
there or anything?
That's the cemetery road. That's not the cemetery.
Well, then maybe we need to think about putting up flagpoles.
Putting up flagpoles
At
where?
the cemetery or at the old town meeting house, you know, that you could display military flags and stuff on.
Well, and then Dan, who determines if it's just the military flags that are important? What if I want the town to put a Black Lives Matter flag up? Then that becomes.
Why do we have a Veterans Day? We decided that we needed a Veterans Day. I mean, it's supporting the people that risk their
It's a
lives.
national holiday, though. That is a national holiday. It's not a local, endeavor. You know.
And that's the one day in Belgrade where we make a point of identifying every person who's a veteran for the town, no matter how long ago they passed away. And we do show our support and our reverence for, and our thankfulness for what they've done. I'm all for keep it simple, unless my only other alternative would be, well, it would be two-part. It would be on the cemetery road and on town property, that it is strictly the national flag and the main state flag, unless we look at a third flag that would be hung below those two. And then we could identify with people's help what would be important. But I'm all for keep it simple.
I think that when you get to the point where you're allowing the select board to make decisions about what flags should be flown, you're running into trouble because the select board is not a constant group of people. It changes every 3 years. And so it's not, that's why I feel that's why you need a policy. Because then otherwise you're sort of left to the vagaries of a changing select board all the time.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you know, that's why I feel like our flag policy should be simple.
Yeah,
These two.
I agree.
Because I also feel like the town didn't purchase those two flags that were hung without town permission. So that's a private citizen who purchased those flags and hung them on town property without permission. Then they were taken down. Then they were put back up, now with town's permission. So essentially what we've done is we have taken responsibility for two flags that the town did not purchase and are allowing them to be flown on town property, which essentially says that we're supportive of that and those two flags and what those two flags represent. And that's may or may not be the case for everyone. So,
And so who takes care of them once they become tattered and worn and that sort of thing? Do they get replaced by the town? I mean, we
Right.
don't have any kind of a policy.
no
There's no-
policy.
There's nothing to guide us in terms of going forward. I mean, I could croak, other people could croak, you know, and once again, the board would change. So
Right.
I
Bruce?
think it has to be more consistent than that.
I do too. Bruce?
Oh, just one thing I want to bring up. Cemetery Road, everything there, that is officially not town property. That is, them poles are owned by Consolidated Telephone. And that is on the DLT right away. So that is not owned by the town. The only flagpoles that are owned by the town is the one at the townhouse, town office, transfer station, and the fire stations.
Now, Bruce, according to CMP owns those poles, not Consolidated Communications.
Well,
C-
either CMP or Consolidated owns the poles, not the town.
CMP owns the poles. They stated that they do not tell the towns what they can put on those poles. That they do leave it up to the town's discretion, but they own the poles, not the town.
Correct. So we're arguing, you know, right now, not arguing, but right now the discussion is what can be flown on town property. That's not town property. I just want to clarify, that's not town property.
No, that's a good point. Penny, you had your hand up?
Yeah, when you mentioned that when we put something other than the two flags that we use now, it makes it look like the town's taking a position that may not be what the town supports. I believe you said at least not all. Well, we're never going to get to where we all agree because we're all so different. But I think the majority of the people would like to stand with our first responders. I believe that the majority of the people would want to, at least right now, like I said before, where they're under attack. Just something to consider. Thanks, Mel.
Oh, you're welcome. And I don't want you to feel like, you know, that it's not under consideration, because I don't feel like we're drawing a dividing line between what you support and what you don't support. I think what we're trying to do is create a simple policy that isn't open for interpretation. That this is what we fly on town property, or where we've been given permission to put flags and flag holders and maintain them. So, you know, there's this, I don't think it's whether or not you support, you know, law enforcement or firefighters or EMTs or any of that.
Well, I understood you to say that when we put something like that on the flags, it is saying that the town supports it, and it may not be true. That's why I brought that up. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yep. No, I absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody else have something they would like to say before we weigh in on this, Scott?
Muted, Scott.
Told you.
All right. Well, I was unmuted, but I got muted. I just want to second what Bruce had said about the CMP polls, and I want to correct. Yes, we did actually have to get permission from CMP to put those flags up, because I did it 10 years ago when they replaced the polls. We had to go back, get a letter signed by them to be able to put the flags up and get their permission on how high and all that stuff. I guess second, all I want to say is, would we be having this discussion 19 years ago when our country was under attack and we lost all of our firefighter and police in 9/11? No. Why are we having it now? The flags have been up. They've been on personal properties. We've hung flags before at the fire station. They got tattered. We took them down, and they weren't just fire department flags. We've done all kinds. So I think it's a mute issue. It's not on town property. per se. And if you want somebody to volunteer to climb up the pole and replace them, I'll do it every day of the week if you want me to. That's all I get to say about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. All right, where are we at here, folks?
Have another hand up.
Oh, sorry, Barbara.
Yes, I would just like to reiterate my support for the keep it simple policy of displaying the Maine state flag and the US flag on town or town managed property. I just think that that's the cleanest way and the most appropriate way for us to go.
Thank you. All right, Phil, did you have something to say?
I'm with the assumption that I would like to go with option 3 too. I think those flags could be flown at the fire station or somewhere else. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who'd like to weigh in?
You have one quick question, Melanie.
Sure.
If we go with option three, and are we going to allow the fire department to display the flags down at the fire station? Because we're going to get into the same thing with somebody's not going to like that flag.
Their station.
Well, their station or our station, I think is the point, Kathy. If we say
Yeah.
town on property.
Well, I understand that, but I think that for me, it's perfectly appropriate for the fire station to display the firefighter's flag.
If it's the firefighter's flag, I mean, the red one I'm thinking with the black stripe, that's a morning flag.
Well,
For-
it would be
for a
their
firefighter.
choice. It would be their choice as to what kind of flag they want to fly, I would think. That it's not up to us to choose what kind of flag that they would put in front of the fire station, is it?
Well, it is because it's town-owned property. So if the flag policy states these two flags, then it's just those two flags.
No, I don't see this as going anyplace tonight. Again, we're just batting it around. I don't know if we still got a good answer to come up with. There's a lot of different opinions on this. I'm not sure what we need to do. I think we need to think about it a little more.
Well, and I guess probably maybe we bat it around a little bit more and then we take it to the townspeople. These are your options for a flag policy. What do you want to say?
Good idea.
Because the problem is if we put it to the townspeople, then we're going to need to clarify what the options are for flag number 3. So, and what are the parameters around that? I mean, somebody could want to hang a stripper on a pole flag. And so we need to put parameters around that. So it could get to be very involved, which is where I do feel like the keep it simple may just be the easiest option and the easiest to regulate option. Ernie?
If you want to keep it simple, I agree with you. I love keep it simple. And, the idea that do we support the police or the fire department in this community, or don't we? I mean, we support it with our taxes, and a governmental group that has a flag that we support. I don't see any problem with putting a flag up. I mean, it's sure, we support teachers too. If they have a flag and they want to put that up, then I mean, there's plenty of poles along Cemetery Row that we can put flags up. I mean, this is a time in our country when first responders are really, they do yeoman work for us. We always expect them to answer the call. We support them with our taxes, and we just, it's just a flag. I mean, that's all it is a way of saying, yes, we support you. I mean, I just don't see what the big deal is. I mean, if your house is burning down, you want the fire department to come put it out. If you have a heart attack, you want the emergency crews to come and save you. I mean, this is simple. You want simple, this is simple. And this is where I stand on this. And, that's all it is. And, I don't know what else to say. I mean, that is the simplest point for me. And I people that don't believe in this or what have you. I mean, when their house burns down, the fire department's going to put it out. When somebody breaks into their house, the police department's going to come and investigate or save them to some degree. So that's the bottom line right there. And I don't see any other way around it. Years ago, we didn't fly these flags, but years ago, it was unheard of to think that police and, to be against police and firefighters, first responders. And we live in a different age. And so here we are. And that's that's the simplest point to me. Thank you.
So what does everybody think about a temporary flag policy until we develop I guess, more in-depth flag policy? If folks want to see flags that are not representative of the country or the state, but are more specific, then we put a temporary policy in place while we investigate whether or not there's interest in a more broad flag policy. And I would think that flag policy should be voted on by the taxpayers. And then you have a clear indication of what they would like to see.
Mac had his hand up.
Who had your hand up?
Mac.
Mac did.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
Ernie, I totally understand your perspective, Ernie. I completely want firefighters to help me. And in fact, firefighters have saved members of my family here in Belgrade. But I also have children and I want teachers to teach them. And that's the part that sticks with me is, yes, I totally agree with you that we support firefighters and police and we need them when we need them. But you know what? I need teachers just as much, and they put themselves on the line. Ed techs, you have somebody with special needs, that ed tech puts herself on the line just as much. You are taken by a firefighter to the hospital. A nurse takes care of you. That nurse puts herself on the line. That's the thing. Once you choose one difference and elevate that above other differences and say, we need this, I can find other positions, other jobs that I can make just as an equal argument to say that should be elevated just as equally. And they put themselves on the line just as much. And they are paid for by your taxes just as much. So it's not that I'm devaluing what you're saying in any way, shape, or form. All I'm saying is once you pick one or two, there are going to be 5 and 6 and 10 and 12 positions just as valuable to our society. And that's what the American flag says. It's our society requires all these people that have different positions, but they have a great many more things that bring them together to create the society. And I don't want to go down the path of identifying different things that all of a sudden have more value than others, because that's not how society is created.
All right, Penny.
Just a quick rebuttal to that. I don't think we're elevating one over the other as far as being taxpayer funded or anything else. I think what we're saying is right now, at this time in our history, police, firefighters, first responders are under attack. And it's a great time to stand with them and show our support for them. I think it was Scott Dameron that said, would we be having this discussion when 9/11 happened? And I think that that speaks volumes. We united strongly behind them. Yes, teachers are necessary. There are, we have all kinds of government workers who are necessary. If they weren't, we wouldn't have them. That's not what we're talking about. Right now, we're talking about police being under attack, and it would be a great patriotic thing for the town of Belgrade to say, not here.
Can I? All right, Lenny, I'm going to let you speak and then I'm going to close this up.
Okay, sure. I'd like to respond to what Penny just said. My gosh, one thing that hasn't been brought up in this discussion, is Penny's brought it up several times, but in an odd kind of way. I mean, there's obviously been a whole national process going on since Mr. Floyd was killed back in Minneapolis in the spring. Lots of protests about police violence against minorities, and in fact, there's a whole culture of police using excessive violence against people who are in many ways different than the prevailing culture. If that's what Penny means by the police under attack, then they are under attack. And the main state police are not immune from that. I don't know that the local police here in the vicinity are part of it, but I think that there's a lot of feeling in the community in Belgrade and in the surrounding area and concern about that. The very fact that we're having this discussion means that this is a contentious issue. That should be apparent to everyone. The town should not be involved in flying flags about contentious issues. You can talk about it in terms of supporting the police if you want to, but democracy is not about the majority overriding the rights of the minority. It's about everyone being able to feel comfortable in their society. So that's a very big part of democracy, that the majority, while it rules on many things, the minority has to be able to feel comfortable in its own society. And I think that it's extremely important here when we have a contentious issue like this, and there's just absolutely no getting around the fact that this is a contentious issue in Maine as well as everywhere else, that we not wade into this quite as forcefully as people seem to think we should. Thank you.
All right. So what's our thoughts for acting on this tonight? Do we do a temporary policy while we research whether or not we do a fuller policy, a more inclusive, or do we simply state Belgrade's flag policy is these two flags?
Well, you can if I may say, you can make somebody can make a motion and, try to carry, one of the options. We can potentially make a motion to leave it the way it is for the time being and craft some sort of an ordinance that the town, potentially votes on these options. If that's the board's choice. I mean, what's your pleasure, Madam Chairwoman?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, we have 4 options in front of us, so. I'll make a motion that Belgrade adopts a flag policy with the KISS method. Keep it simple. So the 2 flags that we have flown for all of Belgrade's history, the American flag and the Maine state flag. And that goes for all town-owned facilities. So I think it's just the simplest, it's the cleanest, there's no jagged edges. It's just straight.
I would second that.
All right, that one is open for discussion.
Now, discussion. Now, there was some talk earlier from Bruce and from Scott that those poles aren't on town property. Is that, where do we stand on that? Is that, what's the status there?
So just as a reminder, we have a contractual agreement with CMP that gives the town the right to place whatever flags that we want to in those. I assume that the flag holders were probably installed by the town. And so, I think it's fair to say that those fall into the town's jurisdiction.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So there's a motion on the floor for keep it simple. Motion and seconded. Is there any more discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none. Where do we have, where did Dan go?
Over here.
Dan's up there.
Oh, there you are. Sorry. Dan, how do you vote?
No.
Okay. Ricky, how do you vote?
No.
And Ernie, how do you vote?
No.
Okay, Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, and I vote yes. 2 yeses, 3 noes. The noes carry. Somebody have another proposal for a flag policy? I'm open to a motion, so if we're going to take this one down, what are we replacing it with?
Do we have to replace it with anything?
Well, I think we have to, because right now there are 2 flags that are flying on poles that the town has permission for.
They've already been voted in though, haven't they? I thought we were talking about future flag policy.
So we would keep those flags along with,
Well, my understanding is that they've already been voted in the meeting. I wasn't at that meeting, but I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you voted to leave them up there, didn't you? So, unless you're going to rescind that vote, I mean, they still stand. And, my vote has nothing to do with how I feel about the police or the fire department or any other first or second or third responder.
Nope.
It simply has to do with the simplicity of a forward-moving flag policy. I don't, and I simply don't think that should be a determination of each new select board as it comes along.
I don't either, which is why I struggle with that decision.
So what do we want to do? Do we just want to table it?
Why don't we work over the winter and come up with 2 or 3 options and send it to the voter?
I'm making that a motion. I'll second it.
Yep, I'll make the motion.
All right, Rick, you seconded it. That motion's open for discussion.
You know, those flags, I just wanted, the way I understand it, I talked to the person that put them up quite a little bit. They're to respect the people that have passed away. And that's the only reason he did it. It's not such a big deal as I think everybody's making it. It's showing respect for the people that have passed away, that nobody ever comes and puts it on their grave up there. That's all it was for.
I think you're the only person that knows that.
Well, I've tried to say it a couple times, but you know what? I just give up. I'm done with this.
Lonnie?
So I just want to remind Ricky that he stated he didn't want to reinvent the wheel with some other committees, and now you've just recommended reinventing the wheel for this flag policy. And again, Dan, you're going to ask for another months of review. I don't understand. I would like to see a decision tonight on this. And I respect that you want to give it some thought, but I don't see that thought being given. And again, reiterating, the flag was put up without permission, without request. Who's to say that somebody else isn't going to scale a flagpole and put up a BLM flag or a gay pride flag? And then what are you going to do? I think that you should, and I think that it's a fairly simple thought, and I appreciate that I'm not in the majority here, so.
Is it possible to move the 2 flags in question into the cemetery? I mean, if that was the intention, and I guess I just don't understand if that was the intention, why it wasn't just asked, brought to the board. Penny?
I just, I kind of like the 4th option simply because, on Memorial Day in the past, pre-COVID, we sat by the historical building and we read off every single name of every veteran that's buried in that cemetery, regardless of what you branch of the service they were in. And I just, I think this is just supporting not only service members, but people who have served in various capacities, as first responders in one way or another. And it's a little uncommon this time, of our society, but it's really necessary. And I just, Dan mentioned earlier that we're going to have to start paying people to be our volunteer fire department, because we're not going to have a volunteer fire department someday. The average age of these people are older all the time. And, how are we going to get young people into these positions as first responders? I just, without supporting them. And I just, it's a, I take Mac's point well, that, teachers are, very much maligned sometimes, especially during this COVID season and all that, but, that they deserve our support too, and they get it. And I'm not about to limit my support for them either, but I mean, in this particular case, this is something that I think we're called to do as a community, to stand up and say, we, are foursquare behind these professions that serve us. And it's just a flag. It's not, I've stated before in a different venue that I have reason, I've been harmed by first responders in my life, but that doesn't mean I don't stand up for them. I mean, it's just a very serious issue for me, and that's why I feel the way I do.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor to table this or to work on a flag policy over the winter. There's a second on the floor. Can we vote on that motion? Arnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ricky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy, how do you vote? Kathy?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. I'm going to be the sole dissenting vote here. I think we should be able to take care of this. But if we want to look at a bigger policy, 4 yeses for holding off on this throughout the winter stands. All right, thank you, folks. Everyone, consideration. Next up on the agenda is consideration of tax abatements totaling $330.14. So we have abatement 2020-4, 365 days of Christmas personal property. The abatement is in the amount of $30.76, and the abatement is because the business was closed prior to tax assessment day of 4/1/2020.
Make that motion.
There's a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of the abatement in $30.76? Raise our hands on this one. 1, 2, Dan, 3, yes. Ernie, yes. Kathy?
Yes.
Kathy, yes or no? Yes. Okay. 5-4-0 against. Abatement 2020-5. The owners are Gary and Joyce Day, map 11, lot 16F. The abatement is the amount of $101.51. The reason is part of this lot was deeded to a new owner in 2017. Those acres were not removed from this assessment. The owners are requesting.
Yeah, I was just going to say this one is a little bit more involved simply because the Days are also seeking abatements from 2018 and 2019. And Rob wanted me to let you guys know that that is not something that he can sort of formally put before you. But if you want to act on that request, you have the authority to do so.
Okay. So the owners are requesting abatements for 2018 and 2019. We agreed there would be an abatement amount of $101.51 for tax year 2019, as well as an abatement amount of $96.36 for tax year 2018. So, is there a second?
Sure.
Okay. All right, let's do this one individually because I was missing the hands. Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie, how do you vote? And Ricky, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses, no nos. Give them their money back for money that acreage that shouldn't have been assessed there. 2020-4, 2020-5. All right, moving right along to warrant number, well, we have 2 warrants, right?
That's correct. So the first warrant is warrant number 139 in the amount of $66,369.88.
I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, the warrant is now open for discussion.
Curious question. Perkins, Thomas, is that talking? Thomas on page 6. Thomas Perkins Jones appeal.
Yes.
Is Thomas Perkins a lawyer?
So
Or
it's a law firm, and so we are having to use a different firm than what we normally use. This attorney is going to be assisting the appeals board in 2 appeals that are based on 1 permit. The permit holder is named Jones. We couldn't use the town's normal attorney because he was helping the planning board with crafting their findings of facts for the appeal. And then we were trying to use Mike Hodgins, but Mike's firm is representing one of the litigants in this case. And so his firm was not qualified to handle that. So they each recommended this 3rd attorney whom we are using.
so we're out there doing lawyer shopping. Okay,
Yes.
thank you for explaining that. That was really the only question I had.
All right, so on page 4, we have to Eaton Peabody, the amount of 2541, which that had to do with the Gardner commercial application.
Yes.
So I guess just want to say on that wasn't the board wasn't privy to that prior to that, us asking for this information. That's a hefty amount.
So I actually did email the board to let you guys know that we would be asking Mike Hodgins again to look into that application. The planning board.
I got an email saying that we had asked him to, and that this is what he came up with.
Yes.
It's different than asking, is it okay? And what do you think about this?
Okay, but let me tell you what would have happened if we had not employed Mike for this. The planning board had already given preliminary approval for this permit application. It was not going to be a legal permit. And Mike's counsel on this prevented us from ending up with a situation that could have well ended up in court, a la the Brightside case.
Well, and so what I'm not arguing that I don't think that it was good that we had his input on it, because it clearly showed that this preliminary permit shouldn't have been issued. But it's not better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. So we most likely would have said, yes, we feel like perhaps this should be reviewed and these are the reasons why, but you have to give us that opportunity.
And I do want to just make one fine point there. So Mike's legal opinion hinged on 2 different laws. One of them, he said, it could totally be up to anybody's interpretation whether or not the issuance of the permit would be legal or not. It was a very gray area. The other one was the minimum lot size ordinance, and it was also a very legal technical decision, because the minimum lot size says that you have to increase the lot size depending upon the uses. Well, they were planning on uses that fit within a retail use, but they were going to be stacked on top of one another. And Mike had to issue an opinion as to if you have the same uses at the same property, do you continually have to grow the lot size? And so I just want to sort of defend the planning board. I don't think it was an easy call in their case, and probably did need a legal technician to help parse through that. But I hear what you're saying about, I mean, frankly, I did not anticipate that the cost would be that much. But I still think it's money well spent, because I think it's going to keep us out of court at some later date.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything? All right, seeing none. Ricky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie, how do you vote? Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. On to warrant number 140.
And that's simply in the amount of $341.53. And this is so that we could pay for the postage for the newsletter that went out in the mail Friday.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, Ernie, how do you vote? Kathy,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
5 yeses, 0 nos. We are at the town manager's report.
I hope you guys saw the email that Lynn Matson sent to me about improving the village turf. Village green turf, excuse me.
Yep.
I'd like to go ahead and pursue that and entertain any questions you may have about that.
Is he paying for this?
Yes.
Wow.
When did you send this, Anthony?
Say again?
When did you send it? I guess
I sent it with the board packet on Thursday.
And it came to you on October 13th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, it came to me 2 days prior, I guess.
Rick, do you want me to read what it is?
No, I'll read it.
Okay.
Shall I move on?
Melanie, he can move on, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so just 3 quick things about the transfer station. The transfer station recycling committee last week recommended or approved the purchase of a $3,500 document shredder. So this is something that's going to allow us to provide document shredding to the users of the transfer station year round, anytime it is open. Our staff will actually run the shredder, but people can stand there and watch as their documents are being shredded if they wish, and then we'll be able to collect that shredded paper and recycle it. So I think it's a good solution to providing the service and then also reaping the revenue benefit that will come from that. And we plan on purchasing that from the $10,000 special event line item that Kenny mentioned a little earlier in the evening. Winter's coming. We can't leave the collection of recyclables outside because they'll get covered with snow and ice. And so we're planning on moving all those recyclable collections back inside effective November the 1st, but we are going to be posting some signs just encouraging face masks and reminding people to remain safe, socially, safely distanced. And then one of our new committee members on the transfer station committee, she's in the apparel business and she's made some hoodies that encourage recycling. And so she's going to be selling these and recouping her $30 cost for each of the hoodies. And then $20, the other $20 will be benefiting recycling educational efforts. And that's going to be part of the budget this year. We're building in some educational money for the community when it comes to recycling. So we plan on starting to market that real soon. The budget committee will have its first meeting on Thursday evening. So we're starting to delve into that with our budget committee. And then lastly, I sent you guys, golly, I can't recall if it was this morning or yesterday, the one proposal that we've received for drilling a well at the maintenance garage. I was anticipating receiving a second proposal today. I'm sure it will come this week, but wanted to see how you guys wanted to proceed with that. Is that something you guys want to approve that expenditure in advance, or is that something you want the salt well contamination committee to look at?
Well, I think my biggest concern with it is that it looks like it's more than $15,000.
I think it's going to be dependent upon the piping, and the piping to the town office.
So the actual, hold on, I'm pulling it up. I'm like,
I think it should go to committee first and let them dig through it. Yes?
Complete Prop 85, 55. 13. So the committee's going to meet Thursday morning. Do you think we'll have?
Not this Thursday morning, next
Oh,
Thursday.
it is next Thursday morning, right?
Which, and of course, you guys don't meet again until November the 10th.
Bruce?
Yeah, you guys want to just take in consideration that you're gonna have to have a building and a spot to house a tank farm if you're gonna run that down to the town office and other entities. So you just want to keep that in the back of you guys' mind on that.
Anthony, could you send me the thing on the well? I don't see it. I've gone back to the last week.
I sent that the last day or two. Melanie, do you have yours?
Yesterday.
Yeah, just yesterday it came to us. You got the one
And-
proposal on the 13th, and
You sent, I got it on the group for the contamination committee. It didn't come on the group for the select.
Oh,
no, it
oh,
didn't.
golly, you know what? That's right. I did. I sent it to, I guess, because I got confused.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, so I sent it to the Saltwell group, which Dan and Melanie are on, and I got you guys confused.
Thank you.
So we'll bring this to you folks November 10th.
Okay.
Because I mean, worst case, what we're really looking at is, the whole point of this was to drill the well and see if we could find good water. You know, so I mean, if we can do that and supply it to the maintenance garage and possibly next door, you know, we can always feed the what line down to the town office next year and come up with money for that. We don't necessarily all have to do it at once. We just
Right,
want
we just want to
we just
see,
want to know if we can get good water.
right, if we can get it, what the volume is, whether or not we can even, you know, if we have enough production there to shoot off more than one property.
Right.
And that's a good point, Dan. You know, if we found good water and we wanted to extend it to the town office, we could take that to the voters, ask them if we could use the undesignated fund, since it would be just a one-time cost.
And when it comes to trenching, you may want to check with Dan McKenzie and Doug and see if their trenching machine would do the trenching for you. Because I know they do trenching for their generators.
I don't think you go deep enough.
You don't think so?
How about Ricky Damon's trenching equipment?
You get one job done for the town.
All right.
I do have one last thing I did email you guys about today. And I should have put this on the agenda, but it slipped my mind. But the 2020 municipal valuation return, which
Right.
our assessor tells me is just simply a sort of a housekeeping matter. But as the board of assessors for the town of Belgrade, you have to certify the municipal valuation. And so if you guys will approve this, I'll send it to you tomorrow for your signature. And we got to get that to the state by November the 1st.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, Kathy, any discussion on that? No, okay. Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
5 yeses, send it on.
Very good. That's all I have.
I had a question about the budget committee meeting.
Yes.
Select board members, are they supposed to go to that or not?
No. So what we're doing, Ernie, is we're going to be meeting with them. We're actually going to split it up. So it's not a marathon meeting. We're going to do half the departmental budgets Thursday night, the other half at another time, incorporate their input into that document, maybe take it back for one last look-see to them, and then bring that document to the select board for you guys to start perusing.
Great, thank you.
All right, does anyone have anything else before we run for the hills?
Are we gonna run for the hills?
Did you notice how good
Yes.
the dogs were tonight? So much better.
Yes.
Whose house are you at?
I'm hiding in my daughter's former bedroom.
Good for you. Good for
And
you.
there are so many treats down there that they've probably gained 5 pounds tonight.
They're probably just eating the couch or something.
Okay, I did like a scavenger hunt tonight. I was like, "Let's throw some treats over there."
Do you still have the bubble wrap on your stairway?
Oh, I do.
I think that's just ingenious.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
make the motion, we adjourn this place.
Okay.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth. All
Good
those in
night.
favor, good night.
Thank you.
Good night, y'all.